you saw it. How could there possibly have been a vaccine for this that already existed?
Well, what happened, Sandra, was in 2003, the first SARS emerged. So the other name for COVID-19 is SARS-2.
Make Fox News viewers change their minds about key issues just by having them change the channel. That's what a new study suggests. It's titled The Manifold Effects of Partisan Media on Viewers' Beliefs and Attitudes.
How many times have you heard someone say, "I don't even watch the news anymore," not because they are uninformed, but because it feels like two completely different realities are being broadcast at the same time? Turn on Fox News, then switch to CNN, and it can feel like you have stepped into parallel universes. Same country, same events, totally different emotional takeaways. And that's not an accident. This isn't just about political bias or shouting matches on TV. It's about something far more subtle and far more powerful. The words chosen in a headline, the tone of urgency, fear, or reassurance, the stories that lead and the ones that quietly disappear. Over time, these choices don't just inform you, they condition how you feel, what you fear, and who you trust. During major moments like COVID, elections, or constitutional showdowns, Fox and CNN didn't just report the news. They framed reality itself, nudging millions of viewers toward very different conclusions using psychology, repetition, and selective focus. So the real question isn't which network is right. It's how two networks can take the same facts and shape two entirely different public opinions, and what that means for how we see the world around us. Let's break down exactly how that machinery works. Take a moment and think about this. Two people live in the same country, vote in the same elections, survive the same crises, and yet when they talk about what's happening, it feels like they are describing two completely different Americas. One says the country is under constant threat. The other says the danger is being exaggerated. One feels urgency, the other feels suspicion. And most of the time, they are both getting their information from cable news. This is where Fox News and CNN come in. We live in an age where information is everywhere. News alerts buzz in your pocket, clips flood your social media feed. But instead of creating a shared understanding, all that information has fractured it. Families argue at dinner tables. Friends avoid politics altogether. Not because people don't care, but because they are starting from entirely different versions of reality. Fox News and CNN dominate the American media space, and they don't just report events. They frame them. They decide which stories lead the hour, which ones get buried, and which details get repeated until they feel undeniable. Over time, those choices add up. Viewers don't just learn different opinions, they learn different facts, different priorities, and different fears. If you mostly watch CNN, the world can feel like it's constantly on the edge of a serious crisis that demands immediate attention. If you mostly watch FOX, the same events may feel overblown, politicized, or driven by hidden agendas. This isn't about one side being smarter or more informed. It's about how repeated exposure shapes perception. And to understand how that happens, we need to look closely at something most people overlook: the psychology hidden inside the headlines themselves. To really see how Fox News and CNN shape opinion, you have to stop looking at the stories and start looking at the language. Because headlines don't just tell you what happened, they quietly tell you how to feel about it. A massive study makes this clear. A research team led by University of Virginia professor Chuck Howard analyzed nearly 1 million headlines from FoxNews.com and CNN.com, published between January 2020 and January 2022. They weren't counting political bias. They were tracking fear. Specifically, how often each network used fear-related language and when. During the COVID-19 pandemic, CNN treated the virus itself with far more fear than its regular coverage. The message was consistent and clear. This was a serious, unprecedented threat. If you were a regular CNN viewer, the emotional signal was obvious. This was something to avoid at all costs. Fox News took a different route. Its pandemic coverage used less fear than CNN's. But when vaccines entered the picture, the tone shifted. Suddenly, vaccine side effects and mandates were framed with as much fear as the pandemic itself. A tool meant to stop the crisis was given the same emotional weight as the crisis. Think about what that does to your thinking. CNN viewers were nudged toward avoiding the virus, masking, distancing, vaccination. Fox viewers were nudged toward avoiding the vaccine, now presented as a potential danger. The study's author put it bluntly. Fox didn't treat the pandemic as especially frightening, but it treated the vaccine like it was. So the question becomes, does this kind of framing actually change people's beliefs when they switch channels? To find out, researchers decided to test it in the real world. In 2020, researchers from UC Berkeley and Yale decided to find out with a real-world experiment. They recruited dedicated Fox News viewers, people watching an average of 14 hours of Fox prime time every single week. These weren't casual viewers. This was their main source of news. Then the researchers did something simple but radical. They paid these Fox viewers to switch to CNN for 1 month. After 4 weeks, the shift was hard to ignore. The participants became more supportive of voting by mail. They were less likely to believe that Joe Biden wanted to eliminate all police funding. They also rated Donald Trump and other Republican leaders less positively than before. What changed? Not their identity. The viewers didn't suddenly become liberals. They still described themselves as conservative. What changed was the information they were exposed to. CNN was covering things Fox had downplayed, especially the severity of COVID-19 in the United States and criticism of Trump's handling of it. One of the researchers summed it up clearly. People began to think, maybe Trump isn't doing as good a job on the coronavirus as I thought. Not outrage, not a total flip, just doubt. But here's the part most people miss. The effect didn't last. 2 months after the experiment ended, most participants had gone right back to Fox News. And when they did, their opinions drifted back to where they started. The new information faded. The old narrative took over again. That's the real power of cable news. It's not a single broadcast or headline. It's constant reinforcement, day after day, shaping what feels normal and true. And that influence isn't stuck in the past, it's playing out right now in how today's politics are framed. By now, the pattern should be clear. This isn't about old studies or past elections. The same framing machine is shaping how people see politics right now, and you can watch it happen in real time. Take how Fox and CNN cover the same political moments. When a Republican-appointed judge sharply questioned whether the public would even care about constitutional overreach by President Trump, CNN framed it as a warning sign for democracy. Their coverage leaned into concern, pointing to polls showing that about half of voters see Trump as a unique threat, but also stressing that public opinion hasn't shifted much despite escalating actions. The message was subtle but clear. Why aren't more people alarmed? Turn to Fox, and the emphasis changes completely. Instead of sounding alarms, Fox's opinion coverage focused on momentum and strength. A proposed Trump-led pre-midterm convention was described as a seismic shift, a move to energize the base and even pull in younger voters, while Democrats were framed as disorganized and weak. Same moment, same country, two entirely different interpretations of what matters. You see this again with polling. A Fox News poll found that 45% of voters felt it had been a good year for them personally. Fox led with improving optimism, highlighting that Republicans felt better with their preferred candidate in office. CNN used polling differently. When covering the Democratic Party's historically low favorability, just 29%, they quickly reframed the story, arguing that midterms are really about how voters feel about the sitting president. Different takeaway, same data. This is how parallel information universes are built. Viewers aren't just hearing different opinions, they are learning different sets of facts, different priorities, and different definitions of success or failure. and that has consequences. If a voter never hears about wrongdoing or only sees it framed as progress, accountability disappears. As one researcher put it, how can voters judge leaders for actions they don't even know happened? That's the quiet power of framing. It doesn't shout. It repeats, reinforces, and eventually becomes reality.